Okay, we're going to go over master detail in Swift. I'm going to start out, we're going to create an app called MyFaves. Let me go ahead and show you what the app looks like when it's run, and then we'll create it from scratch. So it's a master detail app. This is an iPad app. When you run the app, you've got a title here called MyFave Details. Click on this. This is the master. This is the details. So I'll go ahead and click on one of these here. As I click on each menu, on the master side, it's loading it on the detail side. So, in order to do this, we're going to go ahead and start a new project in Xcode. I'm going to select master detail. MyFaves. Make sure it's Swift and iPad, and uncheck core data. Also make sure organization name is Rock Valley College and identifiers edu.rockvalleycollege. Click next. I'm going to save this version to my desktop. Click create. Then you need to uncheck upside down because you want the app to stay as is. You don't want it to be flipping around. So we're going to use upside down. So it's portrait app, landscape left, landscape right. We'll just leave those checked for now. So first thing you want to do is let's go ahead and run the app and see what it does right now before we do anything. This is just a base master detail. Has a label here, detail, and this is a detail view. Here's a master view. As a plus and an edit sign, I'm going to hit the plus sign, and notice it just keeps adding the current date and time. When you click on each one, it changes to the label here on the detail of what you just clicked on. You can also click on the edit and delete these. Now, for the purposes of this program, we're going to need to get rid of the done and the plus, and we're also going to rename this MyFave Details and MyFaves over here. So this is out of the box what it looks like on a master detail app. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the storyboard. We're going to have to get rid of the label on the detail side. So we get to the detail view and want to globally look at these first, these views, before we go any further. So here's a snapshot of the project. Here is a split view, which is the actual initial controller of the app. The split view controls the master and the detail. This here is the navigation controller, this one here. This here is the master. And then this here is the detail. So master and detail. You'll notice both the master and the detail both have a navigation controller. And navigation controllers are used to control the menus. So, we'll double click on the one that's we're going to go to first, which is the detail. When you get rid of the label, because we're going to put a UI web view in here instead of a label. So just click once on the label, click the delete key on your Mac. Then over here in the objects, we're going to go down to a web view and add a web view in here. So there's a web view. I'm going to click and drag and hover it over this view controller until about right there, and then release it. want to make sure that if you notice on my screen, the pluses, the two blue lines show up. When the two blue lines show up vertical and horizontal, it's centered in perfectly, then you can release it. Then before we go further, we need to make sure and dock this in the view to make sure it fits the iPad. And in Xcode, what you want to use over here is resolve auto layout issues. So we click on that, and we're going to use, and I suggest using for the most part, for most apps, we're going to create reset to suggested constraints. It's going to lock it in, and you'll notice over here it adds some constraints, vertical constraints, and horizontal both. Vertical is, it created a layout guide for the bottom, for the view, horizontal, and for the view. So it's basically going to dock it to all four corners with these constraints. So we've done that. Now we're going to go over here on the left side, and you'll notice the files that were created: app delegate, master view, detail view, storyboard. We're going to focus in on master view and detail view. First is a master view controller. It controls a menu that pops up on the left, and the detail view controller controls the contents of the web view once the master view menu is clicked. But in the master view, we're going to be getting rid of some objects here and items, and we're just going to comment them out. The first one is the objects array. The objects array we're going to get rid of, and notice as soon as I comment it out, it puts an error on the line where it was used throughout the code here. So just leave it there for now. Then I'm going to go and get the correct array for that, for the new initialized arrays. And so here's my initialized arrays for Swift, var, list of faves, colon, string, in brackets, question mark. That just initializes an empty string array. Same thing with fave details. List of faves is going to have the menu items. Fave details is going to have the URL. So we're going to populate the arrays inside of the view did load. In all of your views, anytime the view is loaded, it's going to hit here first. So we need to populate the arrays. So let me grab those. List of faves and fave details. And I'm going to put it right underneath this view did load. So what we're doing is populating these arrays. List of faves equals mall, biking, and Google in quotes and in brackets. Gives me 3 items in this array. Fave details, Cherryville Mall, bicycling, and Google. Notice they're separated by commas as well and quotes. So you make sure that the placement of each item in each array is matching. What I mean by that is the first one, mall, should match a URL on the first one here. Same with biking, same with Google. And the way arrays work, it starts with count 0, then 1, then 2. 0, 1, then 2. Now, there's some other items in this view load we don't need. We do not need the left button on the menu, on the main master menu. We're going to comment that out. In fact, we're going to comment out these 2 lines. Don't need the edit button, don't need the add button, which is a plus symbol. Everything else is okay. Next, we're going to comment out the insert new object function because we're not going to need that. If you just highlight that entire function with your code and control click, go to structure, comment selection, it'll comment all of it out. There's another function at the very bottom called table view edit. This table view one here, which is just for editing only. We're going to highlight all of that and go to structure and comment that out. Now we have left with the items we need to remain replace. The first is the table count here, return objects.count. What this does is return the menu items. And so in order to do that, we're going to need the name of the array, which in this case is list of faves. It has all the menu items in it. We're going to go down here and we're going to type in return list of faves, exclamation point, dot count, which is going to return the menu items in that array. Then we're going to focus on this function and this function here. This function here prepares for Segue to go from the master to the detail. This function here determines which item has been clicked on the table and highlights it in the master. You notice right now it's using the old object array, so it needs to be replaced with the correct array. We're not going to be using the array list of faves. We're going to be using fave details, which has a URL on this one here. So what I'm going to do is hit enter, comment this one out, and type in a new line. Let object equals fave details, exclamation point, and then we're going to do in this one index row or index path.row. It's determining which row the user tapped on. So we're doing fave details, and this is actually going to segue into the detail view controller. And so if they click on the menu 0, it's going to go to the 0 item in fave details, which is going to be Shop Cherryville Mall. So that's that one. Let's fulfill the code here. On the table view, again, it's the one that's highlighted and tapped on. We're not going to need this let object equals line at all. We are going to modify this line. So I'm going to copy and paste it so you can see what was and what's coming. So this one's not going to use the fave details. This is going to be using the list. You notice as I type, it populates what's available. List of faves is 1. Exclamation point. And by the way, exclamation point is going to get populating that array or getting ready to populate that array. And then we're going to do the index path.row. Again, determining whatever row they're currently on, and that index is going to load the index of that array. So if it's the top one they clicked on, it's going to be mall, which is 0, biking 1, Google 2. So it can either be 0, 1, or 2. Then it's going to load the contents of list of faves array, which would either be Cherryville Mall, bicycling.com, or the Google site. So we've got everything pretty much done on this side for the master view controller. Now let's switch over to the detail view controller. The detail view controller, one thing we've not done yet is we have to add in an outlet for that web view that we added. You notice the outlet's still here for the description label, and we'll leave it there, but we don't have one for the web view. So what we need to do is go back to the storyboard, go to the detail view that we added the web view in, and then over here you want to click on the Show Assistant Editor. I'm going to go ahead and go over here and hide this screen here and this here so we can have more room to play with. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is click on the, make sure it's set to automatic. Click on the UI web view. As soon as I click on the web view, UI web view, you'll notice it switched to the file I need to drag this to, which is going to be the detail view controller, because that's the one it's on. We're going to click and drag this UI web view right here in this area. So control, click, drag is what we're going to use. So press and hold the control key on the Mac, then click on the UI web view and drag it over right underneath this IB outlet. Release it, and we're going to type in here website, and then click connect. Now we can go ahead and come up here and go back to the normal view here to show the standard editor, bring up our file structure, also bring up the navigation over here of all of our editing tools. I'm also going to, for right now, just to save for real estate, I'm going to hide the outline here by clicking on this item here. All right, so let's go back to the detail view. We completed the master controller, dragged over the by web view and bound it to the detail view. Now we're going to change some code here in the detail view. So what's doing here in the detail view is we need to modify this configure view. This configure view is actually going to be loaded inside of, or called inside of this view did load. Remember I told you every view controller has a view did load, and that's where all it hits first, the code does to see what to run. Well, it's going to run this config view, and right now its job was to put in the label that was on this view originally, the contents of whatever the user clicked on the menu. Well, we're going to go ahead and highlight this section here, this if statement here, because we're not going to need that because we got rid of the label. We're going to highlight that and comment it out. And we're going to have to put in another if statement, but surrounding a web view instead of a label. So, if let my view equals website, then what that means is if it's a website that we're going to be populating, which we are, it's going to, first line here, get the URL from the string that they clicked on, which is in the master view controller. So it can be string 0, 1, or 2 from the fave details. And NSURL is going to convert that string to a URL and put it in a constant URL statement here, variable. Then the next line, let request, is going to bring in an NSURL request, which is that URL. Then my web view.scales page to fit equals true is going to make sure that website fits into the web view. And then finally, the load request is going to load that website the user clicked on. So let's go ahead and run the app. Click on the left side here, and you notice we have our mall, biking, and Google. We'll click on the first menu. Depending on your internet speeds, depends on how long it takes to load. There's Cherryville Mall. Then click on biking. If you tap on this top part here, it'll collapse the master view. Then Google. So it's working. So one last thing we want to do here is change the titles here from detail to master to something else. So stop the app, go to main storyboard. On the detail, I want to double click here on the detail title, and I want to type in MyFaves details or detail. Then I want to go to the master and just type in MyFaves. Notice it's changing the title property. Let's go ahead and run it again. Splash screen, there's a label change. Tap on the master view menu. And all of the items are working and web pages are loading. And so that concludes master detail with Swift.